a fourth-year pharmaceutical science major, and for my systemic injustice diary entries and showcase, I discuss and analyze the different instances of systemic racism present in school districts. I'm from a medium suburb of Cleveland, and I compared the public high school I went to with other high schools in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. I looked at and I analyzed many factors, including the demographic makeup, teacher salaries, funding, etc., and how all of these factors contributed to graduation rates and overall student performance on test scores such as standardized tests such as the ACT, SAT, and OAA.
My name's Shreya Kumar. I'm a freshman and I'm majoring in health sciences. And for my Diary of Systemic Injustice showcase, I picked the racist policies that Walmart companies have been enforcing in their stores, specifically with ethnic hair products. And what is happening is specific products for people of color are being put behind glass walls and extra security, while normal hair products or products for Caucasian hair are left freely on the shelves. And Walmart claims that this is because of high theft rates with these specific products, but they have no evidence to back up that claim. And this systemic injustice is prevalent in many Walmart stores countrywide, so that's why I saw it as systemic, because their policy is being enforced by people high in the system countrywide through Walmarts.
My name's Lizzie, and I am a senior at Ohio State, and I chose to do my systemic injustice showcase on the lack of healthcare access, and in particular mental health access. I am a psychology major, so this is kind of an issue that's very near to me and something I'm really passionate about. And kind of what gave me this idea was I wrote this originally, and it was National Suicide Awareness Day. And I saw a post on Instagram that was talking about suicide awareness and how, like, yes, it's good to share suicide hotlines and things like that, but it kind of starts way before that, and how, like, sharing those things is kind of like a last resort, and how, like, things that are ingrained into society need to be changed in order to really prevent suicide awareness. Really to promote suicide awareness and to make mental health care access available to everybody. And kind of through my research, I found that mental health care access is super expensive and kind of not really obtainable for everybody. And I think most people would agree that mental health care access is really important because mental health is really important. So I kind of just went through different ways that that promotes systemic injustice and actually promotes systemic racism as well, because it affects people of color disproportionately to white people. So, yeah.
So I think that these two situations between Lizzie and I definitely are closely related and are able to be compared. I did a lot of research and background information on what exactly funding is for the school districts. And I came across a study done by Rutgers that stated that increased people spending or funding is the fastest and most effective way to increase student test scores, graduation rates, and overall educational experience, which definitely includes giving them access to more opportunities and resources, such as mental health services. If the peer pupil spending is increased by as little as 10% per student, that is enough to eliminate the gap between children from low-income families and children from medium to high-income families. And I'm did a few more articles, read a few more articles, and I'm happy to see that as of August 2019, Ohio has boosted funding to address student mental health. The funding is expected to provide school districts with more tools to better address mental health issues that can stand in the way of students' academic success.
Yeah, I think that really goes along well, kind of like with what I was saying of like, it's important to kind of start that early rather than later of like putting systems in place to promote mental health and being mentally healthy. And I think that's cool that they're putting that in schools because I mean, that was when I was in high school, like, and I think in a lot of high schools probably still like that really isn't a thing. So I think that's awesome that they're starting to do that.
You guys think that these instances connect to like definitions of othering we've talked about in class?
So I think that for the school, like just the school system, systemic racism that I was talking about, I think that like the children who are happen to attend the high schools that don't get as much funding or don't have as high graduation rates or don't have have lower teacher salaries. I think that could definitely contribute to them feeling as being the other, because like it's not their fault that like they live in this school system. Like most 99% of children don't have a choice really of like where their parents live, like where they attend school. And so like I don't think it's definitely not fair for them to feel like the other, like as something they have no control over.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes along with something I talked about in my diary entry was kind of the idea that like mental health care access shouldn't be considered a luxury for like the wealthier members of society. Like it should just be considered like standard and like it shouldn't like people who are kind of already at a disadvantage should not be put at a further disadvantage and kind of more outcasted and made to feel like other or you know, I think those are the people who kind of are experiencing this like otherness and like this like kind of feeling of being on like the outside, which yeah, I think something I talked about was like how like a way to fight for social justice is also fighting for like equal rights and equal opportunities to healthcare, and I think that kind of like when we start to work towards that, we kind of start to work against like othering and like making people feel like outcasted and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like I don't know, when I was in high school, my school district would like allocate funding based on test scores, and all that funding would go towards like mental health resources and stuff like that. But there's certain school districts or certain schools within my district that were already at a disadvantage academically. So of course they would have lower test scores, and because of those lower test scores, they would have less funding. So it was kind of like a cycle like that you couldn't really change. And I think that is like a huge problem because it's like they're being othered for circumstances they can't really change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Definitely that is definitely like a cycle that you can't break if you can't have the resources to like help them like do better in school, like do better mentally. Then how are they supposed to perform better on these tests to get this funding? So that definitely needs to change.
Yeah.
So we talked about how like we could increase funding, but is there like another way, or not another way, but like I feel like state to state there's different policies for funding. So like what do you guys think would be like the best possible solution to fix these injustices that are happening?
It's a great question. I think just based on the research that I did, that increasing the pure pupil spending is the fastest way. That doesn't mean like it's by any means like the best way or like the most like effective way. I do think that since each state has like controls how much funding they give to the schools, and especially I'm exactly not very sure on the like private schools versus the public schools for funding. I did my research on public schools, so I know that the majority of the funding comes from the state, and like grants like can come from the government like as well. But I think just like analyzing, like I know this is probably not like the most time effective way to do it, but like looking at each school district and looking at like their test scores and looking at like their students like mental health, like maybe getting everyone to do like a survey of like what they think of the school district, like their services that they provide would be a good way to like analyze who needs more like funding for like more resources, more improvement programs in place.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think with that too, like, I think a lot of people still, I think it's gotten a lot better, but a lot of people still don't see mental health as like a big issue and like a big like deal. So like a lot of funding doesn't really go towards that. So I think like, you know, education like on that topic of mental health is like huge. Like it's super important to kind of get people to see mental health as something that needs to be addressed, and seems like it's kind of working in that direction. But yeah, definitely they have a long way to go. And I think, yeah, like kind of breaking the stigma of mental health, one, and also two, like just like, you know, yeah, like just education and kind of getting, you know, people at the government level to see it as, you know, kind of important and almost necessary.
Yeah, I definitely agree. After coming to Ohio State, do you guys like what do you guys think of like mental health services here? Like how do you think it compares? Like obviously Ohio State is much larger than a high school, but like what do you think of the opportunities here versus like in a high school?
I think they're like they did a very good job, especially compared to high school, because like in my survey class for my major, every single class we have, she always puts like the phone number and the email of the health services that we can contact if we're ever feeling stressed or we need like a free therapy session, which is extremely helpful and something like that would have never been done in my high school. Even though we discussed mental health, it was something that we learned about, not really learned about how to deal with it. So I think it's like exponentially better than it was in high school at Ohio State.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, yeah, in my high school, like we didn't even really talk about it. Like we barely talked about it in health class, which I think is a big step up from high school for sure. But, you know, I think there's always room to improve and, you know, but yeah, I think that goes along with like, it's good for college students to have that access to, you know, low cost or free even mental health services, because, you know, typically like it is super expensive. So I think that kind of helps to break that wall down a little bit.
I definitely agree. I think especially with like COVID now, I've been I had COVID back in September, but I got so many emails about like mental health services and so many options and everything, which I definitely think was helpful because that was an extremely stressful time mentally. So I definitely like think that if you're not okay mentally, you're not able to perform like as well as you can like academically. So I definitely think they go hand in hand, and are extremely important to like both of those should be like definitely emphasized together, and like one is not more important than the other.
Yeah.
I agree.